Thank you for listening to WCNY Online. Your support makes this service possible. If you're already a member, thanks. If not, invest now by visiting wcny.org/support.
This is Reith the Podcast here on WCNY.org. Don't forget the television show tonight, 6:30 to 7. We have Syracuse Police Chief Frank Fowler coming in to explain the new reporting system that they have that utilizes the computer. And not everyone's happy about it, so we'll talk to the chief about that certainly. And we have a couple of other guests lined up for the show today, too, so it's a triple header. Joining me on the podcast today, though, is Jim Johnson, and he's the driving force behind SCARE-A-CUSE, a horror and sci-fi fan convention taking place at the Turning Stone Casino. It really gets underway in full force on Friday. How are you, Jim?
Jim, I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on the program.
Sure. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Tell me what SCARE-A-CUSE is all about.
Well, it's primarily a celebration of pop culture, if you will, that focuses on some of the most popular categories in horror and sci-fi, fantasy elements, TV, movies. It really just gives people an opportunity to mingle with celebrities, fellow fans of those genres, and get together and celebrate things they love to do, which is attend and watch horror, sci-fi, TV, movies, paranormal TV, movies, the whole gamut.
You got a lot of actors and actresses coming in.
Yeah, this is our second year, and the first year is always a challenge. We were able to secure about a dozen celebrities the first year. This year, we're up over 24 names that range from Adrienne King, who you'd recognize as the original Alice in the original Friday the 13th movies. We've got Jason Hawes and a bunch of the cast members from the Ghost Hunters TV series. We've got folks that come from Star Trek, David Orange from the Star Trek movies, Judy O'Day from the Night of the Living Dead film, the original 1968 version that
Wow.
George Romero, he wrote and produced and filmed on a shoestring budget, and it's become a monster cult classic. So we've got quite a variety, about 24 or so celebrities all on hand to shake hands, take pictures, sign autographs, and mingle with their fans.
Why'd you decide to do something like this in Syracuse?
Well, it's an interesting story, Jim. Part of my business is I publish a magazine called TAPS, Para Magazine, and it's the magazine for the Ghost Hunters TV show. And that's required me to do some traveling. And I've started to go to conventions like Dragon Con and Gen Con and Convergence, and names that folks probably aren't familiar with, but they're similar conventions. And I never would have understood what these things were about until I showed up to my first one, and I realized these are really a lot of fun. And there's nothing like this in upstate New York. So I, at that point, a couple years ago, set out to create one, because if you don't attend one of these, you would never believe how much fun they are or really what they're all about. You gotta attend the first one, and then you become hooked.
And so how'd the first one go that you did?
Well, we started planning about a year out for the first one. So we started in 2010 planning for the 2011 event. And we ran into hurdle after hurdle. It's not an easy thing to start. And long story short, we found ourselves in June of 2011. Now, the event was scheduled for September of 2011. We found ourselves in June without any celebrities committed, without any marketing, without any promotion. So we made some changes. We put a full-court press on. We were able to get those dozen celebrities that I talked about. And in a matter of 6 weeks, we promoted. We secured the On Center in downtown Syracuse, and we ended up with over 1,000 attendees and a very, very successful event.
And you expect this to be much larger, of course.
This one, with the first one under our belt, we opened the door. Celebrities started contacting us. They wanted to be involved. Turning Stone Casino, which we had approached originally, and they really weren't anxious to sign on to the first one. They approached us, and they offered to host the second one, which we were excited about. And as far as attendees go, we are well ahead of 2011, and our projections put us significantly, 2 or 3 times the number of attendees, if not more. And it's going to be very, very successful, much bigger, and much more fun.
How did you market this one?
Well, we had a couple of things going on. We have a natural audience with our the magazine that I told you about that I actually publish. Plus, we've just got this network of when you start attending these events, you start to develop a network of like-minded folks, and you learn all the horror convention websites, and you learn all of the sci-fi convention websites, and you start to communicate with these folks, and the internet makes it very easy to do that. And by doing that, and folks like you, Jim, bringing us on your programs, we get the word out, and then they tell two friends, and then they tell two friends, and it takes off like wildfire.
Well, there's a kind of a community built around, especially horror movies. There's a definite, and sci-fi movies, I guess, definite community, right?
Oh, there's no question about that. These folks, just because of they share a love of horror movies, and when I say horror, a lot of times people think of slasher. It's not just slasher films. It's subtle horror. It's that psychological thriller horror too. Those are all very popular within this community, and folks really bond around that type of entertainment. And again, I view it more as a celebration of pop culture, because that pop culture, that horror movie genre, touches everybody at some point in their lives.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I grew up on horror movies. Monster Movie Matinee here in Syracuse was on every Saturday, and they showed all the classic, Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman stuff from the 60s and right on through. So I absolutely believe that. And now it's had a huge resurgence through vampire movies and zombie movies, right?
Oh, there's no question about it. Those two categories, vampires are starting to wane a little bit. I think that the overwhelming popularity of the Twilight series of movies has kind of pushed that to be not so cool anymore. But the zombie category is just exploding, and you can see that with new zombie television shows appearing and a host of new zombie movies on schedule to be released soon.
All right, so what time does this start on Friday for the public?
Friday morning, the doors to the convention hall, and again, it's at the Event Center at Turning Stone Casino. They open at 11 o'clock in the morning, and really, it's a full day of events, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, capped off with a movie premiere on both Friday night and Saturday night. Two new horror movies that are being released nationally that we're premiering, and then there are after parties following the movie premieres. So it starts at 11 o'clock Friday morning, goes well into the night Friday night, then it opens again 10 o'clock Saturday morning, again into the night, and then 10 o'clock Sunday morning.
Yeah, gotta like those after parties.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
All right, thank you, Jim.
Jim, thanks so much for having me on.
My pleasure. It's Jim Johnson, who's behind SCARE-A-CUSE out at the Turning Stone Casino, begins Friday morning. This is Reith, the podcast on WCNY.org.
The Jim Reith Radio Podcast is made possible by the members of WCNY and by Upstate University Hospital.